Yes, that was very kind introduction there. Anyway, I'm here to talk about the U.S. long product market and trade issues, and I always set the table a little bit by first and foremost starting a little bit with the economy. I know you've all heard about the economy this morning, so I'll make it fast. But without the economic data that we analyze, we would be lost in our assessment. Here's the growth forecast, or the actual growth in the U.S. We had the recession. You can see here that we have come back. We have had steady growth for a long time, and this first quarter here in 2014 was an aberration caused by the bad winter in the Northeast. We are back at 4.2% here for the second quarter. It was just updated a couple of days ago to 4.6. So the 4.6 wouldn't have happened if we wouldn't have had the contraction here in the first quarter. But overall, it's fine. The worry that I personally have is we've had the recovery for quite a number of quarters, for quite some time now. These cycles tend to end sometimes, and I'm afraid that it could go the other way. And the recovery here, yes, we had it, but it was not all that strong, and it certainly didn't feel all that strong. And along with the economy, here's the steel production. We've had an average of 1.8 million tons in the U.S. of raw steel production per week for quite some time. It's really, there's not much difference between 2014, 13, 12, and 11. This circle here, that was week 38, which is towards the end of August. And you can see, I mean, all these years they are at roughly 1.8 million tons. And I think it will kind of chug along on that rate for quite some time. We are looking at the vehicle sales. We are doing well there. I mean, that speaks well for the consumer confidence level. We probably had 17 million units this year, and that's a good indication. I personally like housing. Some of you might probably get tired of me to point out housing, but housing is very important to us. And this line here, 1.2 million units per annum, that is the signal of a good economy. And we are not quite there yet. We were in July, we broke through 1 million units here in July. August it went down, it fell under 1 million units again, and the September numbers aren't out yet. Warren Buffett, the Oracle of Omaha, once said, if the housing market is doing well, the economy is doing well. And that's why we pay so much attention to it. So as I said, it does reflect the economy very nicely. We are almost there to a normal economy, just not quite there yet. Construction spending is up. I like to see it. The non-residential, I mean the private non-residential level is coming up, but it's even exceeded by the private residential level. That does reflect the increase we had in the summertime of the housing market as well. The government could chip in a little bit more. They're down here. Our infrastructure projects that's supposed to kick in, and we do need it, they really haven't come through yet. But overall, I think the construction spending is positive and good for our business. And quite frankly, here's the CPI level. You know that we had this quantitative easing program in the States for a couple of years now, and some of the conservative people and the pessimistic people always point out, oh, it will inflate, there will be inflation again, it will run out of control, etc. But we are right here at 2%. That's where the Federal Reserve would like us to be. That's where the Europeans would like to be. They are not there. They're way below and are facing a stagflation or a deflation cycle. But at 2%, we are right there, and there's no inflation yet. So let's turn to steel. I selected some items here for steel. The largest import item in the US right now for the past 12-13 months has been hot rolled coils. It's shooting up here, pretty much driven also by the Chinese. And guess what? The rumors are rife that there will be a dumping action against Chinese hot rolled coils. OCTG, up and down. We had a very prominent, very controversial dumping ruling against OCTG. They were let off the hook in the preliminary ruling, and then with a lot of political pressure, most players got some penalties that hurt a little bit more in the final ruling. Rebar is down here. Again, we had to cope for most of 2014 with the dumping issues for Mexico and Turkey. So here is the latest ruling on dumping and countervailing duty for Mexico and Turkey. It took just about a year to get to this point, and in that year we managed, or I should say the Department of Commerce here, they managed to come up with a ruling that really shuts out Mexico. I mean, they have an anti-dumping ruling of 20%, that's the largest player here, de Acero. Grupo CIMAC, Grupo Acerero, they are not that large in volume, but they get heftier fines still. The big winner, of course, here, and I think they've done an excellent job, are the Turkish mills. They have no anti-dumping ruling. They have really no countervailing duty ruling either. There's a little bit, 1.25% for Ektaş all the other mills too, except for Habash. But I think that's a margin that is manageable. Now, as a word of caution, the domestic mills, they haven't come out yet, but there are strong rumors, and everybody expects that the domestic mills will appeal the ruling against Turkey here. The ruling came out in September. They have 30 days. So by October 14th, 15th, at the latest, we should hear if there is an appeal against the ruling of the Department of Commerce for rebars from Turkey. Here's the picture for wire rod. The current investigation right now is against China only. I mean, you see all the names that are affected here. The dumping margins are in the triple digits, so that's pretty much out. Lower margins for CVD. But the Chinese mills are, as far as the US are concerned, pretty much in trouble now. It didn't help that Benji and Tangshan here, these two big guys, they were the mandatory respondents. They had to respond to the commerce, and they refused to do so. American, or the Department of Commerce, doesn't like it when the foreign mills don't respond to their investigation. And that's why I expect the margins to stay as high as they are. And the final determination is expected to come out on November 12th. I want to go back real quick, because I forgot to mention that, to Mexico and Turkey. The final injury ruling by the International Trade Commission, ITC, is set for October 14th. That really is the only chance that Mexico has. I mean, if they rule that there's no injury, then the whole thing is out the window. So that's probably the last chance that Mexico has not to be shut out of the American market for the foreseeable future. So these were the current investigations. We have had dumping against rebars and wire rod for quite some time. These are old investigations. I mean, here are all the countries that I mentioned that are really shut out of the American rebar market. Down here, Mexico and Turkey are the current ones, and all the others here. They've been filed for years. They should, in the not too distant future, there will be a sunset ruling in all these countries, and except for the Ukraine, I really expect that all the other countries will remain under dumping. I mean, that's at least based on past experiences. Here's the picture for wire rod. We've had this for years as well. Down here's the Chinese, that's the current one. All these countries have been under dumping for, I don't know, probably 10 years. There was a sunset review for all these countries a couple of months ago, 2-3 months ago, and it was ruled that if they would be let into the country again, the dumping would resume. The only country that they took out of here was the Ukraine. So I want to show you the imports of rebars and wire rods into the US. I hear all the time in the last couple of days that we are the good market. It doesn't feel like it sometimes, but I mean, I guess compared to Europe and to other countries, we are the good. But we have competitors too. So anyway, so last year we had rebars. We had a very good year actually. We broke through the 1 million ton mark here in imports. The biggest one, of course, was Turkey, and the other sizable one was Mexico. That was a fairly good year. Normally we are right around 1 million or a little bit less than 1 million tons. 2007 was definitely an exceptional year. Now, we had the dumping rulings, investigations, I should say, against Turkey and Mexico. So I want to show you where this year so far, how the rebar imports spread. And quite frankly, it really didn't change much. I mean, the big country still is Turkey. Even during all the time of investigation, they came in very strong in January, in March, and they're at 621 tons as of September 23rd. We are overall at 927,000 tons as of September 23rd, and I really think that we will hit 1.2 million tons, so we will exceed last year. Mexico, not surprisingly, they drop off the list starting in April here because things weren't going their way. Now the question is, where did all the tons go? We have some new players in the market. We have seen imports out of Japan. Japan has 57,000 tons. In the first 9 months, they shipped to the West Coast. They shipped into the Gulf as well. The other two players that have come into the market from Europe are Spain and Portugal. 48,000 tons and 13,000 tons. And we have Korea. The Koreans stay mostly on the West Coast. And we have Peru. That's a relatively new entry here. They started in March. This was that was during the period of time when we expected the preliminary ruling against Turkey and Mexico, and then they came again in September when people were thinking that Turkey could be shut out. So, on the wire rod, again, quick look back on last year. You really shouldn't pay too much attention. That 677,000 tons is not the right number. This black number here, down here, 37 some odd tons, that's China. And everybody knows that China shipped a lot more tons of wire rod to the US than that. It has something to do with the classification. The importers had to use different import numbers, different HTS numbers, because there's boron in Chinese rod, so it's an alloy. So that is not the right number. In the filing, or during the preliminary investigation of the Department of Commerce, they established that last year China imported 650,000 tons of wire rod into the US. So this number here probably was closer to 1.2 million tons. So, the filing against China was at the beginning of the year. Was right, I think, was the first day of the Chinese New Year, so that they could enjoy the party. So where have the wire rod gone? We are, so far in the first 9 months, we are already at 1.1 million tons. And this was really, of course, on the back of China. They had some very strong imports here in the first half of the year. There are numbers now in the census numbers, and all these numbers are based on the census U.S. Census department, they do reflect the Chinese, the right tons of Chinese wire rod now. And China is still the big country and will remain it for the year. Canada is always there. Canada ships always between 35 and 40,000 tons into the US every month, like clockwork. Who will be taking over now on the low carbon side now that China is under investigation, has huge margins against them. So Turkey always is a good source. I mean, Turkey does make wire rod as well, not only rebars. There are two countries that are not in here because they didn't quite make it with the tons, but I've seen some wire rod coming in from Egypt, about 26,000 tons in the first 9 months, and there are about 10,000 tons coming in that have come in from Peru. So there are two countries, in my opinion, that will take some of the slack that we will see in the market with the temporary departure of the Chinese. So, since it works so well in the US, I guess our neighbors to the north decided to join the fray, and they filed their own dumping suits against China, Turkey, and Korea. Now, Canada is not such a big market in wire rod. The largest exporter of wire rod to Canada are the United States. They have about twice as much going there as China. China exported 144,000 tons last year. The US is 280,000 tons. Turkey had 37,000 tons. And this one surprised me, Korea. The numbers that I saw, and I went through the numbers of the Trade Department in Canada, they had 4,000 tons. That's less than 1%, and they get a dumping filing. I mean, I don't understand it, but that's the way it is. I mean, there's a very good chance that all these three countries will be out of the market in China, in Canada as well. So that's really, very quickly, the long product market in the US and Canada from the import side. And the only other panel I have any questions. So.
Thank you very much, Bernd. That was very informative. Any questions for Mr. Neuenkirchen? Cem? Can we have the microphone? Right. So if you can hold on for a minute.
Sure. I just made up a little bit in time, right?
Hi, I am Ecem from SteelOrbis. My question is about US economy. We had seen that US economy has shown very positive signs this year. So demand of steel will be high for this year also and the following. So, but we observe that US has further stepped its protectionist actions up. Do you think these actions harm the economy or help economy to develop further?
So your question is, will the trade actions harm the economy?
Or develop?
Okay. If it does, it's minor. You have to understand, I mean, as big as we think the rebar market is, and the import rebar market, as I showed, is 1.2 million tons. Overall, the US rebar market is 8 to 9 million tons. So it's a very small part of the overall GDP. Now, will it hurt a little bit? It's minor, and I really don't think that it will hurt it, because there are other countries, you know, as I've shown. I mean, and Turkey is off the hook. That's very important. So Turkey is the largest exporter. So it really has hurt the Mexican rebar manufacturers. There's no question there. And it has hurt certain regions in the U.S. De Acero and the other Mexican mills that I've shown there, they shipped a lot into the Midwest, into the upper Northwest. They were very strong in Colorado, in Wyoming, in Montana, where the domestics are now, they have the market on their own. It's very hard for the traders, maybe my competitors are thinking about it too, but it's very hard for us to reach those areas I just mentioned through Houston or other ports, but Houston would be the logical choice with Turkish rebars because it's expensive. Transportation in the US is expensive. So will it hurt overall? No, I don't think so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions? I have got one quick question myself. I have seen on your presentation that Canada has actually, the Canadian dumping case has ended with certain countervailing duty margins for Turkish exporters on rebar, whereas the US case has not ended with similar numbers.
Yeah.
What is the difference?
That's a good. The same question was asked by the Turkish Steel Association. They said we ship a lot to the US. They claim that they get more money in Canada. I like to argue about that, but they claim they get more money in Canada. So why are they filing dumping against us in Canada now when the US took 1 year to investigate us and didn't find any dumping? So I can answer that question. Sorry.
Anyway, still thank you very much. Okay, thanks Bernd for a very informative presentation.